Hi guys, it's Tony and we're back on the bench. And this morning we're going to be doing another little preview video here on some reels that I picked up recently. My friend has a friend who had a family member who passed away recently, who was an avid fisherman and reel collector. And we sat down and went through all the reels, and we struck up a deal where my friend could walk away with a few reels, and I could walk away with a few reels for my collection, and also reels that I could work on, and some repair, and some of them not so much. And this batch here in particular is kind of a batch of both, where some of these reels might be fixable and salvageable. Some of them might just end up being parts reels. And so, we're just going to do a quick preview of this, and we're going to kind of walk through each one of these here. So, we're going to start here. I'll just kind of put this off to the side. So here we've got a box for a Penn Senator 30112, and inside of it was a 40 Senator. Okay, so the black faceplate, the original Senator series, and I do believe that that there are more reels, and there's also rods that still have to be acquired. From this gentleman who passed away. He had a very, very large collection. Some very rare stuff actually as well. But this, not so rare, but very much a staple in the industry, for saltwater fishing, for light tackle, fishing. But the box doesn't match the reel. That's not a big deal, really, though. You still have all the original stuff in here. Pretty much all of these reels, for the majority of them, they all came with the boxes and the original owner's manuals, and you even have the classic Penn wrench in here, and even the lube tube is right here as well. You don't see a lot of those these days. So, very cool. As far as this reel is concerned, well, it's got a few different issues, okay? And this is one of the things that I talked about when I picked up this reel at first. Well, first off, it's very sluggish. It's very hard to turn. This torpedo handle does not spin at all. It should. So it's kind of seized up. The eccentric lever is very loose. You can kind of see here it's got a looseness to it that isn't quite right. And so that's an issue. The spring probably has to be replaced. I do have some replacements kicking around for that, I do believe. And not to mention the fact that there's just some terrible, terrible corrosion damage here, which is very typical of these reels. This can be cleaned up. But in the end, when it's cleaned up, it's probably not going to be worth more than like $40, maybe at the max, only because, and all the time and effort, and maybe replacement parts, maybe replacement drags and stuff like that. I'm not sure. So it's essentially a parts reel at this point. We're going to hang on to it and maybe use it for parts and clean it up. Some of the parts that are on it, and maybe use for other reels perhaps. But that's essentially where we're at with this reel. Maybe someday we might be able to clean it up in its entirety. With enough work, but yeah, these reels, when they get to this state, it's like, well, they're just kind of a decorative piece at this point. So that's that reel. And put that off to the side for now. And then next, we've actually got a fly reel here. We've got a Martin fly fishing reel, and this reel is really, really nice, but it's got a problem. It's got a handle knob that's all bent, and it kind of comes off. So that's unfortunate. That doesn't really work really well. I think really the only real remedy for this is maybe to do like a little JB weld job perhaps, or something like that. And even that I would be hesitant to do probably. But yeah, it's unfortunate that's how that is. But it probably got banged into a rock or something like that when he was fishing or something, or maybe or a tree branch or something, and those things happen. So that's unfortunate. One of these days I'll probably try to look at that and see if there's a way to remedy that. I don't really know the value of this particular reel. I don't think it's probably worth that much, though. So, when the reels aren't worth a lot of money, you have to ask yourself, is it worth it to dump a lot of money into it? Well, in this case, I'm probably going to say not. But, it's something to look at some point, just for the sport of it. Now here we've got kind of an interesting one. Now, I've seen these before, but never in the reel like this. And so this is a Mitchell Riptide 40 CD, and it's got the line counter on it. So this is basically a trolling reel, a light tackle trolling reel. And this reel, I mean, it spins. There's no problem there, but it's got kind of a roughness to it in the handle. You can kind of feel it. It's got a little bit of a grind in there, a little bit of a crunch, and I'm not sure what that is. It could be a lot of different things. I'm not sure. These reels, they were made in Japan. And it also is missing a cap end here, so that's another issue. If you don't have that, you're going to have problems. So yeah, this reel is essentially a parts reel at this point, and I can't imagine a lot of these parts being usable, on a lot of other reels other than this particular series. You can see there's a lot of corrosion damage on this screw right here. I'll try to zoom in on that. The guy definitely did a lot of saltwater fishing. I'm under the impression he did a lot of salmon fishing. I also acquired a bunch of tackle in this deal as well, just lures, hooks, weights, all kinds of stuff, boxes of it essentially. And from a lot of the stuff that I observed, he did a lot of salmon fishing, probably in Alaska, I would imagine, based off of some of the gear that I saw actually. But still kind of a rare reel. You don't see it every day. Okay. Moving right along here. So we've got a Shimano box, but inside of it is not a Shimano reel. We've got an old Abu Garcia spinning reel here with a spool for it, which is good. It doesn't look like there's an extra spool for it. And it looks like we've got some spare parts in here, but they're for a Shimano reel that we could not find. There were plenty of other Shimano reels, but they weren't for this particular box, I'm pretty confident. So, but this reel here, we're going to have to look at it. It needs a lot of cleaning. It needs a lot of love. You can see it's got this terrible, sticky, tacky stuff on it. It kind of looks like it was used on the beach maybe once or twice, and then it didn't really get picked up again after that. It seems to spin fine. The handle has to be tightened up. I think this reel particularly, it really is going to need a lot of cleaning. And I've worked on a lot of Abus before that are like this, and they end up having a lot of rust damage and corrosion damage on the inside if they weren't cared for properly, which, could be a possibility with this. We'll see. But it'll be a project reel to try to do a restore on, and we'll see how far we can get with it. Parts for these are pretty much completely obsolete. You would have to go, find another model that's similar to it. A lot of the Abu stuff, it's hard to find out what stuff was interchangeable with other reels. Penn is actually pretty good about that, especially when you go to mysticparts.com. But, with companies like Abu and Mitchell and stuff like that, it's quite a bit harder to figure that out. So, but nice little reel, perfect for trout fishing. So, we'll see what we can do with this down the road. But it's definitely going to be in need of a great deal of cleaning for sure. Okay, and then moving right along here, we've got another Penn reel. So this is a Penn 25 GLS. Now, I'm not familiar with these, but I have heard a lot about them. Now this reel, once again, we got the box, we got the original documentation and the rod clamp and the lube tube. It's all in here. That's wonderful. Unfortunately, this reel's got a problem. It's got a terrible grind in here. You can just hear that. There's either some terrible bearing damage in there or something. I'm not sure, but I can feel this terrible grind in here, and it does not sound or feel good. You can see there's all kinds of pitting and corrosion damage here. Not so much on this side, but definitely on the screws and down here. It's really built up. The guy definitely used the reel. This is a made in USA Penn, actually, so that's cool. And I'm not sure this part of the reel here, which would be your drag here, essentially. This is the same design as the internationals, as the big Penn international reels. Same deal. So it's like they took that design and they transferred it over to these reels, kind of a lighter weight reel, graphite, frame design, that kind of thing. But I'm going to have to do some more homework on this reel, which thankfully we have, some documentation here that will help us with that. But yeah, it's a graphite lever Senator series. And so this is actually part of the Senator line, according to this manual here. But yeah, we'll have to go through all of this and see if there's parts that have to be replaced. And if they do, how much does that cost? Is it worth it to fix? That kind of stuff. I'm not 100% sure. It does function, it does turn, but it's got a terrible grind in there. So we'll see about that. I'll have to dive into that, and we'll see what ends up happening. So there's that. We'll put that off to the side. And then last but not least, we have another rare bird here. So we have a Zebco Cardinal. It's a Zebco reel that's made by Abu. Now, collectors are probably very familiar with this reel. And I've never owned this reel or seen this reel before, but until now. But, we got original box, very cool. Anytime you see that stamp, that it's Abu equipment for sure. But at some point, Zebco must have gotten together with Abu to make these series of reels. And, it's an interesting piece of equipment. Now, this one has a couple of different problems, unfortunately. The bail does work, and it's really hard to see here, but there is a hairline crack right in here in this crevice, okay? And it's actually on both sides. It's on this side and this side. It's hard to see, but there's a hairline crack right there. And unfortunately, there ain't nothing you can do about that. You'd have to replace this whole rotor, essentially, to make that happen. My guess is this stuff is... It seems like it's all made of plastic almost, essentially, but it's a combination of some plastic pieces and some metal pieces in there, I think. But yeah, it's not very hardy, unfortunately. It does spin okay, it seems, but it definitely is a little sluggish, and it definitely will need a service of some kind. But this is not a reel that I would ever use. This would be like a mantle piece, perhaps, for a collection or something like that. But it is, with those hairline cracks there, it is deemed broken, and those parts are not replaceable, not without another one of these reels, and that would cost you probably a great deal of money just to get another whole reel just for that part. So that's kind of unfortunate. But, that's what happens sometimes when you're talking about working on reels. And I don't know for sure. I don't know if these are really sought after models per se. They're not original Abus, and they're not original Zebcos for that matter either. And then we've got a spare spool in here. It looks like there's some rust damage here. And, made in Sweden though. So that's kind of cool. A very old line on here for sure. But, not something you run into every day when you're working on fishing reels, so that part is very cool. And just the fact that it's got the original box, it's very banged up, unfortunately. I don't recall the year that this was made. I would have to do some homework to date this reel. I kind of want to say somewhere in the 70s, though, would be my guess. I'll have to do some more homework on that later. So, that's it. That's it for this... particular pack though. And so what we're going to do is we're going to push forward doing, more of these projects here, and I'm basically going to prioritize these reels. These reels in particular, I'll probably be putting them, off, for a little while, but if there's any of these reels that you're interested in knowing more about, or you want to see them worked on, just go ahead and feel free to drop something in the comment section on that if any of them interest you, and I'll see what I can do to try to bump them up on the video list a little quicker. But in the meantime, we're going to be getting into a bunch of other reels that are going to need some replacement parts that can be obtained right now, and that's going to be coming up shortly. So thanks again for watching. This is Tony with Back on the Bench. If you like the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, please make sure you do subscribe, hit the notification button, and that way you will be getting all the updates as to when there are new videos coming out, and there will be quite a few more coming out here shortly. So stay tuned for that, and we'll see you next time.